March 23rd, At Your Service Staffing began its hashtag Hospitality is Here fundraising campaign. This campaign is aimed to celebrate the resilience of hospitality workers and mark the excitement for the beginning of the return to hospitality and the live events industry while raising money for those in need. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Jeanine Cosgrove-Albert, the Vice President and your host and moderator for the Hospitality Buzz. I am with At Your Service Staffing, and today I am joined by a fantastic panel of women that I happen to know through the Society for Hospitality and Food Management, SHFM. I'd like to introduce Barbara Kane, former Vice President of Industry Relations with Ecolab, Sumi DeBenedittis, Director of Food Service Development and Communication at PepsiCo, Shayla Martin, Senior Sales Executive with Grubhub, and Zee Shami, culinarian and owner of ZeeTheCook, located in Dearborn, Michigan, Dearborn Heights, Michigan. Thank you all for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I know, as I mentioned, that we all know each other, on more of a professional level, but I feel like sometimes we don't get to check in with each other personally. So I will start off with hopefully something that's not too deep, but how was your 2020 personally? How did that go for you? And I'll throw that over to Z first, if you want to jump on in and start with that deep question, I guess.
Thank you so much for having me today. So 2020 has been my most growth year of my life, right? It's allowed me to really get to know myself a lot more, to calm down a bit, not to go Speedy Gonzalez on everything that I do in my life. And so I'm a lot more mindful now. And I feel like I'm a better mother, a better friend, a better sister, a better everything, So for me personally, I've grown so much. I've gotten to know exactly who I am. And it's helped me to set the tone for my future, to be more aware of what's to come. So a lot of personal development. Thank you.
No, that's fantastic. And Sumi, what about you?
Yeah, so I don't think anybody was really prepared for 2020, but I think that through all my experiences over the years, whether it's through work or at home, sort of prepared me for this year, right? Like, I think for me, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. It was bad, but, I didn't have a lot of personal loss like I know many did, losing a parent or a loved one. So I was very fortunate in that way. What's great has been spending more time with my family. It's been hard, but I think we're all really resilient, and I think I found more purpose in my life. I think personally and professionally, and that's probably been the biggest thing, and finding stronger connections with folks here and through the groups I'm part of. So I'm trying to be positive, and it's been a year, so I feel like I can be more positive about it, but same as Z, just a year of growth, and again, just sort of proves that we're all prepared, as difficult as it may be.
No, for sure. And Barbara, what about you?
So I'm very social. You all know I love to be in a room and work a room. So not that I struggled, but it was hard for me because my job is to attend conferences. The last event I attended was March 9th. I think I flew home March 11th and it just shut down after that, especially being New York City based. And it was hard for me. I'm used to being engaged with people one-on-one and in person, although Zoom is fine. I don't like talking on the phone, and the Zooms got old really quickly to me. It just wasn't the same. It was great to see everyone. So it was a little tough for me because of that social aspect. I just missed all of my friends and clients.
I totally understand. And Shayla, what about you? How was 2020 for you personally?
For me, it's kind of interesting. I entered 2020 with my word being healing. And I feel like the universe was like, you set the word, here you go. All the time in the world to heal, all the time in the world to things that I think I probably would have thought about and not interacted with. I was forced to be able to sit with things that I needed to heal and to focus on. So I think I came out or I will come out of quarantine having healed some things that needed to be healed because there was nothing else to do. But the social aspect of it was really hard for me. I am also very social. Within week 3, I was like, I'm not doing any more Zoom happy hours. I'm not doing any Zoom workouts. I'm not doing any Zoom weddings, no Zoom birthday parties, nothing. Like I stopped doing all of that. The other thing I would say that it really taught me to own my no, because it was like, no, I learned and became better at saying no to things, because like your time became like, there's a lot of time on my hands, and where I choose to use it because I'm able to finally use it, I'm going to use it where I want to use it. So I became very, very better at boundary setting and everything. But the healing was probably like the biggest aspect. For me, mental health is important. And I went from seeing my therapist every other week to like just every week, just chatting with her and talking over things that were coming up for me, especially coming off of like a year. It was like a year out of being from breast cancer. And so it was a lot of time focused on healing on what breast cancer had brought up for me that I didn't even know that it had brought up.
No, for sure. So one thing that you just said struck a chord with me is owning your no and setting the boundaries. Um, I feel like that's something that women have to be more mindful of. So a question that I do have is, do you believe women face barriers, and obviously this is presented to the group, face barriers in their career that their male counterparts do not? And if so, what responsibility do companies have to take, to break those barriers down? I present that to the group, and I'll add a little bit of my own to that. I feel that this past year, owning my no has definitely been a struggle, but I see it that I have to start doing it more and more, professionally and even personally. So it is, like I said, that definitely resounded with me, Shayla, because establishing my boundaries in the 46th year of my life is something that I did not think I would really have to focus on, but here I am. So I presented to you, what do you think about that, Sumi, about barriers and our male counterparts?
Yeah, I'm just thinking back, and I think women just kind of want to make everything happen and not let things drop. I don't want to generalize, but I know I feel that way, and I know other women feel that way. I would say that I think in the beginning of COVID, I was just working on a lot of projects like COVID response for a company, racial equality projects, and so I didn't want to say no because it was so important. So I think the purpose piece and the personal motivation kind of drove me, but I know I have my limits. So I did have to kind of put a stop. I mean, I was working a lot of late nights, long hours, but I knew that I felt like it was so important that, for the future of my kids and people in general, I probably didn't do the best job. But I think a lot of this is also leader led. Like our leaders were really good about making sure we were taking care of ourselves, checking in with us. I have a great boss, and a woman leads our food service division at PepsiCo. So I felt that people really cared and wanted us to have boundaries. So I think having that culture and environment really helped. And I didn't have to find myself, really putting down my foot on things. So I'm not really sure what to say, because I probably not the best at it, but I got much better. I think after the spring, I tried to take more of a pause on some things. Some of the bigger projects kind of, especially COVID response, were taken care of. So I just made it a point to take a little more time and not try to do everything, respond to every email.
Mm-hmm. Nope, for sure, for sure. And what about you, Z? Especially owning your own business.
Yeah. So I've struggled like for years before, but that was in the beginning. Being that we're now 5.5 years into the business, I've grown so much myself, and I hold myself so confident. I know exactly who I am, what I'm capable of doing, and that when you have that, it shines through you, and it doesn't allow for anyone to underestimate you or take you for granted or treat you any specific way. It's like you hold your ground, and it just shines its way. So for me, it's been a journey, right? It started off as kind of like, oh, I need a guy to kind of be here and do the guy thing, but no, I've definitely stepped into that role for both, my femininity and then also my masculine, aggressive, like what you need to do sometimes to really show like don't mess with me, you know? So in the business world, it's something very important. And I'm very, very proud to say that I do carry myself in that demeanor, and it's going great. And I think that if anything, women need to support more women, and I think the guys will eventually follow, right? So the problem isn't just the men not supporting women, but it's also women supporting women. And so I like to be that for my staff, you know, for my teams. And we always have that like encouragement, empowerment talk about how women supporting women will set the tone for everyone else. Thank you.
No, that's great. No, that's really great. And Barbara, what about you?
So I've been in business for over 35 years in the food service industry. Please don't do the math on that, anybody out there. But I met Sumi at Women's Food Service Forum, which was something that empowered women in the food service industry. And Sumi, I remember sitting in rooms with you where there were maybe 3 or 4 CEOs in Fortune 500.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember those times. And I remember the year after year, this report would come out and the numbers would not even change. One year we dropped a CEO. And so there are definitely the struggles there. Are we getting better? We definitely are. Today, there are 37 female CEOs in Fortune 500. That's huge because it does start at the top. But what they're now finding that struggle is at mid-management. Women, sometimes a woman doesn't want to get to the C-suite. That's just not what they want. Their focus is on their family, their focus is anywhere. What makes me nervous is that it's that entry-level management position that women are struggling with. Women are more than 50% of the workforce. We're only 38% of that entry-level management. And that makes me nervous because that's not something that you can't manage if you're raising a child or if you're a single parent. So I struggle mainly with that entry level management, but hopefully that top down. And Z, you hit the nail on the head. We have got to, as women, support each other. We have got to bring each other up and support each other and not look at each other as our biggest competition in the room, because it's not, it's the guys sitting across the hall.
It's true. It's very true. And Shayla, I mean, we started this conversation based on what you had just shared prior, but do you have anything further to share about setting barriers and you know, companies' responsibility, you know, in regards to that?
I definitely think it's also what Barbara said, that it's leadership led, or I think someone said that, leadership led. And I think for 2020 and like 2021, that still, we're kind of in the pandemic still, is that understanding that a lot of people never had worked from home before, and then they were forced to work from home. But working from home also equaled your partner perhaps there, your kids there if you have kids. And so people weren't just working anymore, but we also were like fighting a pandemic. And even if you went through it okay, your body's internal response was in like fight mode. And I think it was important, and it is important that for leadership, and a lot of leadership, I think, got on this and jumped on this, according to social media at least, was that like understanding that people aren't just working right now. No one's just at home working. They are hearing the news that people are dying every day. They're now teachers. Now they have to cook all day for kids. If you're single, you have nothing. For me, it was like being at home by myself all day. It wasn't just working. And I think it is important for leadership to understand, especially during a pandemic or things in the future that happen, that a lot of people are juggling a lot of things, and that the culture has to be set to understanding the mental mind space of where people could be, especially 2020 and still 2021. So I think
Sure.
culture led, and understanding, that and those pressures came on a lot of women. For my female friends that have kids, that pressure of being teacher, mom, wife, worker at your job, were all on them. And I think that was a lot, and probably hard for a lot of people.
No, for sure, for sure. I mean, we do have, you know, again, according to, you know, CBS News, over 3 million women left the workforce last year as a result of the pandemic. You know, why do you think women overwhelmingly left their careers during this time? And, you know, what does this say about the life of working women in general? You know, and, you know, Z, I'll pass this back to you, since you kind of touched a little bit upon, some of that as well too.
Yeah, for me, I'm just someone who is not willing to give up my dreams, because if I want to serve my family, my children, and be the best person that I can be, I need to be happy first, and I need to make sure that I am strong, and my company makes me strong. It makes me proud. It makes me happy. So for me, I wasn't willing to give that up and then just stay home. But what I did have to do is ask for more help, right? Hire more nannies, more babysitters, more help, and really have that conversation with my children, which is, you guys, we got to do this together. It's not all on mom, it's not all on dad, or it's not all on the nannies, right? You guys have to be there for us too. We are counting on you to be strong and to be the best that you can be, so that we can also do that as well. So I think that it's really maintaining that balance, not giving up certain things, right? You're not having to give up certain things, and finding that balance within your family lifestyle. But again, I do understand 100%. I mean, my own sister stopped her teaching job just so she could also, sacrifices do sometimes have to be made. And with that being said, it can only get stronger, right? We're not put through challenges for no reason. We're put through challenges to grow, to learn more, to figure out more about who we are and what we want to do in the world, right? Sometimes we have to step back in order to move forward even better. So I'm not sure if I answered your question perfectly, but it's just that you got to do what's good for you and what's good for your family. That's where it's at your home. What's good for you might not be good for others, and what's good for others might not be good for you. So I think that's my final answer, right? Is like really bringing it home and seeing what's best for your family.
No, and that definitely could be a big part of the reason why so many women left. That was, that was what was best for them and for their, and if, family was part of the equation, for that, for sure, that, absolutely answers the question. But Sumi, I want to present this question to you as well, because you and I were recently on a call, with Joanna James, the woman who produced the movie A Fine Line about female chefs. And again, all the barriers that women in that capacity, in that part of the industry, or that part of our industry face. And, we discussed this, this came up in conversation there as well. So I'm curious to know more of your thoughts on this, women leaving the workforce, and, what does that say?
So I think that movie highlights, it's a few years old now, but the movie highlights those key issues around work-life balance, equal pay, childcare, all sorts of issues affecting women, and why there's so few women in leadership positions, especially in restaurants and the chef community. So I would just say that, I mean, just from personal experience, I have twins that are 6. It's crazy, just, the whole managing of remote learning, if your kids are remote learning, or just being in this different environment. So I can see why women left the workforce in large numbers. I mean, I think it's all about what Z said, it's prioritizing. For us, actually, between my husband and I, we survived until October with having help at home with like a babysitter who was helping, extending her, she did pickup, and then she was helping with remote learning with our kids. But we just felt for our kids, it was just better to have one of us more present. So my husband, actually, we decided that we couldn't both work full time. So my husband was actually the one that decided to step back until the pandemic is, more over. And it was like the right decision. It was really hard to make because we're both like very career driven, very devoted to work, been working for a long time. But it was the best for us. So I think that I'm sure there were men that had to step back too. I do think that women tend to be the caretakers, whether it's children or a parent or an elder, in their family. So, the responsibility, if you're a single mom, I mean, I honestly do not understand how people can survive in this environment. I mean, our school that our kids go to is a Title I school, which means that 60 to 70% are, like qualify for free lunch essentially. And I don't know how people do it, so we were fortunate we could live on one income. But I mean, to me, it's like, it's pretty obvious. I don't know if anybody was really prepared for this. So I think we're probably more so in some ways, but it's still not great. So yeah, it's.
No, I definitely understand 100%. I mean, I have my son, and the first part of the pandemic, March, April, May, I
Mhm.
was trying to do it all. My husband, worked full time. His company was deemed essential, so he was still going, into the office, and then, I'm working from home, pandemic,
Yeah,
and school goes virtual. And here I am, like we were just discussing, teacher. And then finally in June, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. There's no more, I can't. And luckily, I had to enlist our babysitter, who sometimes just normally helps with, like, date night, or, hey, I have to go run some errands. She was able to come in and, and take on more of the role of the school, being present for the, remote learning, and,
yeah.
participating in that. But, I was cooking, making sure that there was lunches made, and, all, all of those things.
Well,
So,
I just have to give a shout out to teachers, because I'm a class
oh,
parent, and I didn't realize until you hear the parents complaining about the situation and realizing that there's different entities. There's the teachers, there's the school administration, there's the DOE, and it's not all in the teachers. So, like, definitely have new respect for teachers and any nanny or babysitter that can manage kids. I mean, I don't like throughout the remote learning process, because I personally don't think I would have the mental energy to do that. I'm sure I would find a way if that was the only thing I had to do with my life, but it's hard.
oh, it's very hard. Like I
Yeah.
said, June, I hit the wall, and I've been fortunate because, my son's school, they went back to in-person learning in September. So they've been back 5 days a week.
Mhm.
One or two, like, closures. One was long-term after the holiday, but we've been very fortunate. So I consider myself very lucky, in that regard. But, I want to, toss this over to you, Barbara. What are your thoughts? You are such an advocate of women in the food service and hospitality workplace. What do you think about so many women leaving their careers? You had mentioned that before, the percentages where women are, and, what do you think that says about, us working in this industry in general?
I don't think a lot of them, I go by the max, what's the majority? And I think the majority are the single working mothers that work in the hospitality industry, that they didn't have a choice. Restaurants shut down, hotels shut down. These women, it's not that they didn't want to work. I think they were forced out. And, there are 8.8 million, I'm a stats person, there are 8.8 million single mothers in the United States today. That's
Wow.
scary when you think about that.
Yeah.
Probably 90% of those can't hire a babysitter, can't hire a nanny, have children under the age of 10, that once school went remotely, especially, I think of us in the New York City area that were so hard hit, the schools weren't open for a really long time. What does a woman do that has a job that she can't, if her kid calls in sick, she could lose her job, or if her car breaks down, or she misses a bus? There are companies out there that are not, we're blessed to work for these great organizations that take care of
Mhm.
people. There are jobs out there that you call in sick, forget it, you're going to lose your job. That's what scares me the most, is how those women find the strength to say, I have to do this for my children, and somehow find something to do to carry them over.
So true. So true. And Shayla, what are your thoughts on what Barbara just shared, and also this question in general?
Well, I don't have any kids, so it's very hard for me to jump in here. But I can say that there is a socioeconomic difference, and I know that that number of the lot of women who had to stop working is driven by that. So I think there are probably a lot more factors that created that number. They're like unfair factors that are something to think about. I mean, I think during 2020 and what we see now is like the pay disparity, how much women are paid compared to men for this exact same role.
Hmm.
And so I think 2020 brought to light a lot of things. It brought to light where women are seen in the landscape of social economics, and where we thought that maybe we have gotten so far, we realized that there was so much more to go. We saw that in racial disparity. So I think it brought to light, 2020 brought to light all the ugly.
Yeah.
If from our society to like people's inner self, like in it all, it kind of came up because there's nothing else to do but to like realize the things that are not correct. And that's something I think that has to be fixed. I don't know how to fix it, but that's something that definitely, as a society, I think we're working on. How do we bring women up to where we're supposed to be? It's 2021.
No, for sure. And I agree with you. I do think last year brought so much to light. The cracks in the foundation became very apparent, absolutely within the United States,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. But, bringing all this to light then leads me to another question. What can we do, or what can companies do to encourage women to return to the workplace as we do, get back to a little bit of some normalcy? What do you all think that, we are lucky to work for such great organizations, Barbara, and Z, you own your own company, and you set the tone yourself. So what do you think we can do, or our companies or other companies could do to get some of these 3 million women back to work, or not make them feel that if they have to call in sick, they're going to, lose their job? Z, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so for me, it's all about the mindset, and helping people get to the right mindset that encourages an opening and to even want to work, right? To get back into it. They can't just go in without the good mental health and emotional health and support. And, just to remind women that, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to depend on family and friends, to seek help. There's millions and billions of people on this earth, right? We're all here in humanity, we're here to support and help each other. So I think of my mentors, I think of my advisors, and how every time I find a great one, how I could also be a great one for others. And at the same time, for me personally with my team, I bring a speaker in, once a month, and that helps them to reset their mindset, recharge in a sense, really empower, something empowering to give them the education, more knowledge, more wisdom, Audible books are great. I think I highly encourage volunteer work as well, when we give from the heart and not expect anything in return. Just that giving in itself is so motivating and inspirational. It's worked for me. So I always try to, see what's working for you. Let's see if that works for me. And what's working for me, let's see if that works for you. Just an ongoing coaching, mentoring, inspiration, set the mind in the right place. I think also back to the pandemic when it first started, me being that I already have this entrepreneurship mindset, challenges like fuel me, right? So like, challenge me, great, no problem. I'm not going to be led by the challenge. I'm going to overcome it. And so that mindset is something I want to teach others. And that mindset is something so powerful that helps you go like extremely like above and beyond what anyone may expect, So I think we really need to educate, empower, and encourage women to get in the right mindset in order to be ready for the real world again.
No, excellent. I do love that idea of mentorship. I'm such a huge fan of that. And I do also get that recharge from empowerment from speakers, or from even speaking, with other people. Sumi, do you have anything at PepsiCo that like supports, women in the workplace? What are some of the initiatives there?
Yeah, so I think the greatest value that our company has provided is just like the empathy, having the leaders, build that culture where, it's okay, if you have to build that kind of flexible work environment. I think that's, to extend off of what Z was saying, I think that's so important, because you can have all these programs in place, but if you don't have the right leaders or people looking out for each other, it's like, how are you going to keep people? So I do think, there are programs with like, childcare assistance and things like that. I've been able to use some of them. I wouldn't say I lean on them the most. I think it's, there's just some decisions you have to make if you have kids, and, hopefully there's more support there for those who really, really need it. I would just say it's more the culture, the empathy, understanding, building awareness, and that allows, people to be more flexible. Because I think if anything right now, we have to be, right? And also I would just say, like, if there's any women or, you know, underrepresented people kind of type programs like women leadership programs and things like that, not to back down on those. So even like, for instance, we have a sales leadership program at PepsiCo called Pinnacle that's every year. And this year, even though we couldn't do it physically, they did have like a 1 day, it was 1 or 2 days, like a virtual session. I think those things are so important because we hear that women are leaving the workforce, right? Especially in leadership positions. So you need that visibility, you need that support system. I mean, that's what kind of empowers other women to keep those connections. The network is so important for that, for our community and specifically and in general. So.
Yep, no, I agree. Networking is really important. The cultural, you know, tone at, you know, where you work 100% equally as important. Barbara,
and I would just add one more thing. Sorry to interrupt. Is like when you look at SHFM, I mean, we just celebrated Women's History Month, and there's 17 past presidents. Barb's one of them. Like I think even having workplaces that encourage you to be part of those organizations. I mean, just we've stayed so connected. We've done so much. The organizations involved, if they've seen a gap with like diversity or women, they've tried to make efforts to fill that, or bringing students into the fold. So. I mean, women are a big part of SHFM, and I think that's why we're here, right? I wouldn't know all of you if it wasn't for SHFM. And I would say, you know, just I've been part of that organization a little over 15 years. Barb was one of the first people I met through, you know, WFF, and we look out for each other. I mean, she looked out for me. I remember, you know, other leaders, Karen Bracken-Tilly, Ann McNally, some of the, you know, presidents kind of mid tenure of that organization, and they're still present, you know, and it says a lot.
No, 100%. And it's funny because that's exactly what I was going to shift to Barbara. I was going to say, Barbara, you know, you're a past president of SHFM, you know, very connected with the women within our organization. You know, what do you see? You know, networking is great. What do you see as important to helping to bring more women, you know, into the food service and hospitality industry, and even into organizations like SHFM?
I think the key to being successful either in an organization or an association is, and we all hear it, mirror your customers. How can, you know, Ecolab, when I started, that was very heavily white male dominated, and they realized that that's not who we're selling to. We're selling to a very diverse audience. So associations and organizations need to be cognizant of that. There are a lot of women leaders out there, which is great because that brings in other women, but we have to take it to the next step. And we have to engage more of a diverse culture. And it's not diverse, it's not race, it's not sex, it's so much more than it was, say, 20, 30 years ago. So I think mirroring who your people are helps people feel more comfortable. That's the one thing I love about SHFM. When the young professionals started joining this association, you know, Z, you were one of them, just came in and they built these bonds together that we did back when we joined when we were in our 30s or 40s. So this association is so good at creating that bond and making everyone feel welcome. And you build, it's not just work friends, it's these true lifelong connections.
For sure. And Shayla, what about your thoughts on, you know, getting women, you know, back into the workplace, networking, and even, you know, involved in organizations like SHFM? What are your thoughts?
Well, I was listening to a Brene Brown podcast a couple of weeks ago, the Dare to Lead, and I forget which one it is precisely, but she was saying something about when she first started and she was rising to being like very good at what she does in the research world, she felt this form of fear of like bringing in another woman because it was just her. And as she grew, blah, 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 she realized that no, part of success is bringing someone with you, bringing up other people, is creating a seat at the table. And it's saying that like, there are only 9 board seats and there's only 1 woman. Well, let's have 10, and that 10th is going to be a woman. And you advocate for that. So I think it's very important to bring women to the table. If we're at this table and you're at a place of leadership, bring in women. I think some of the load is on us as women to not think that just because we get to the leadership place or just because we get to the place of success, that if we share the success or share the leadership, that it's going to take away some. So I think that that's like a key to it, bringing people up with you.
For sure.
Jeanine, and I kind of feel that we've got to, I love hearing that, because when I entered the workforce in '83, I was the only female on the 200 sales team at Sara Lee, and there was no one I could look to. There were a handful of women leader in food service, which is why I went to the Women's Food Service Forum, because there was nothing within my organization. So who was going to be that person that would guide me and that would mentor me? And I found some unbelievable female leaders, Debbie Benedetti being one of them from SHFM and in Women's Food Service Forum. I love that this generation coming in has that ability to pick up the phone and call me, or pick up the phone and talk to Sumi, or find out what it was. I think some women think there are no barriers, where what I saw in my career, at least for the first 20 years, was horrific. Some of the things that women went through. And I like that now we're all there to support each other. And instantly, Shayla and Z are saying, help the next woman coming up. It is so important. And I love that we've changed that thought process, that women are now thinking that way versus not having someone to guide them or having to struggle to find someone that was similar.
Yeah, I mean, I could not personally imagine not having that mindset, because 20, especially like last year, I mean, I had no problem, Barbara, picking up the phone and calling you and saying, our company has to, ugh, I hate the word, but it has to pivot. It has to adapt. You know, we provide hospitality staff, but now we want to provide staff to healthcare locations. And, you know, I know that you are involved with AHF, and oh my gosh, what a great direction you put me in, and connected me with awesome people. It's really put us on a great path to develop this whole part of At Your Service that we've only like tripped into that business, you know, or organically had that business, but now it's going to become a whole other division. And man, I can't wait to get back in front of in front of everybody, to really network at the AHFs and the SHFMs, you know, and really to see everybody. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. And you know, Sumi, I know I've heard you say before, we have to rely on each other, and we have to be there for one another. It's amazing, and it is amazing to see that it is just so natural for you know, the young professionals to just have that innate, because I feel like I was at a time when that was more of a learned behavior. You know, it wasn't so natural. So yeah, professionally, it's amazing to see, but it's also amazing to see maybe some of us that are a little bit further along in our careers to be able to see that and to own it and to foster it. You know, it really is an amazing thing. One thing I do want to leave us off on is, you know, 2020 has been, you know, we discussed females in the workplace, and, you know, things we can do and things we should be doing, and, you know, how to get more women back into the workplace. But I all know, you know, we were all a little touched by this year professionally. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that as we round out our conversation. You know, what did you experience professionally, and where are you out now as we're, you know, in the 4th month of 2021? You know, Sumi, I'll start with you on this one. Sorry.
No.
Surprise.
I was half joking. I mean, I'm probably going to repeat some things I said, but I would just say that I think it's, when I think back to all those challenges I've had, it's like you kind of are prepared for this moment. I think most of us here are probably like more type A personalities and, you know, are willing to take on new challenges. And so, not that I'm saying that I wanted it to happen, but I think it just proved that you can handle these situations, and it gives you confidence that you can impact other people's lives and make the culture better and more inclusive. And I mean, it was really truly a test. It was just kind of like, some of it was slow, and it was like you didn't know what was happening, and all of a sudden was happening, and sometimes you were just hit hard by some of the headlines that are happening, that you're hearing. But I would just say that if you're at the right kind of company for you, it's like where you can really shine and take charge and take on these new projects and things like that. So, you know, like I said, I worked on COVID response, racial equality work, that's still continuing. And I think it's great. I think there's, you know, you just see more of this purpose piece that's so important in what we do. And I think, you know, consumers and people and communities, they look to companies and organizations to help solve issues. So, you know, that's, I think, just at the heart of like why we're all here, and the work, you know, the kind of work we do with SHFM and professionally. So I don't want to speak on behalf of everybody, but, you know, it's not like we gave up. So I'm kind of just proud of like what we've all done together. And, you know, it was a tough year. Like when I think back to individual moments, like, yes, that's really sucked. But, you know, we're still here. So, and better connect, like we have stronger bonds in terms of like, you know, I'm leading the diversity committee for SHFM, and it's been a journey. I mean, it's not exactly the most diverse organization, yes, in terms of women. So we have work to do, but everybody's committed and everybody wants to create that environment of inclusion. So, you know, if I didn't think it was possible, I wouldn't have taken that on and try to, you know, we're all in it together. Actually, some of the committee members are on this call right now. So, you know, I just happen to be kind of like leading it a little bit, but we're all kind of in it together. Like you can't do it without each other. So it's creating that environment, being, you know, learning to have patience. That's probably professionally one thing. Everybody's in a different place with these topics. Like the George Floyd killing kind of triggered the Asian hate stuff that's happening. So, you know, I think we can like, it's almost like we're not that we're practicing, but we're trying to just create where we can the right kind of culture and environment so that we can solve these issues together.
No, for sure. And everything that you just mentioned, I mean, that all does lead into our professional being, you know, it's, you know, it's that purpose for sure. Z, what about your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, so professionally, it's been a great journey. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, we don't grow when we're comfortable. So this really forced us to get uncomfortable in a good way. For example, with my company, we've never done virtual events, and now we do. It's something that I was very against in the beginning, like March and April. Everyone kept saying, do this, do it virtually. I'm like, no, 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 no. But once I did it, I got uncomfortable. My team got uncomfortable. It brought in a new revenue stream for the company, right? Now it's really powerful. We're reaching people on a global level, not just here in Michigan, where things were happening, you know, in person. So yeah, new revenue streams, new innovations, more creativity. I mean, this shook us up, right? This shook us up. It's brought out emotions and, you know, so many things. And there's so much more awareness, as Sumi had said, you know, so this is great. This is the first time, even in March, that, and of course, it's great on the side that doesn't have anything to do with illnesses, obviously, but even in March, like Women's History Month, it's never been this strong. You know what I mean? Like every day I had something to be a speaker about or a panelist about. Like people are very in tune and aligned and not so busy that they're not concentrating on things that really matter. So yeah, this professionally, it's been eye-opening, new innovations, new creativity. We just have to overcome the challenges and not allow them to take over. So yeah.
Fantastic. And Shayla, what about you professionally, 2020? Love your take on this.
Well, like I said, my word for 2020 was heal. Didn't know the 2020 was going to be, no, you're really going to do this. And for me, I feel like for the professional side, it brought in a lot of, for me, self-growth. I found myself reading a ton of leadership books, working on my own personal leadership. And part of being a good leader, I believe, is being vulnerable and being in touch with your vulnerable side. Part of being in touch with your vulnerable side is healing anything that keeps you defensive. So it all works hand in hand for me. And I feel that I came out being someone a little bit more comfortable in my leadership and more ready to use my leadership in my professional space. So I think that's what happened for me professionally. And then also really looking at what is my purpose. And I feel like maybe a lot of people kind of did that too. What is my purpose? And having the time to think about it and to like ponder on it and do things that I think align you more with your purpose. And for me, that's kind of like what happened. And I did just accept a new position. I think fully aligns with everything when I think about being a leader, think about growth, think about being in a position to bring people up with me. And it kind of does all of that. And I think 2020 is like kind of is what allowed me to make this transition.
That's fantastic. And Barbara, what about you professionally?
Well, we all know professionally has been a big year for me. I think because of my age and where I am at the stage of my career, so many people lost their lives. As Sumi said, yeah, I was blessed that no one, knock on wood, that I was close with died from Corona. But it did make me take that step back and look at my life and say, what do you value? What's important to you? And I'm blessed that financially I can retire. I never wanted to. I thought I'd be working till the end of time. But I love being with my family. I have a very large family in New York, and we all live close, and we're extremely close. And just that spending that quality time with my family just kind of made me say, yeah, maybe it's time to look at that next chapter. So today is my first day retired. Bittersweet. Yeah. I love my career. I love this industry. I definitely will stay engaged in it because I have so much to give because of the life lessons after 40 years in the industry give. But it's that looking back and saying, what do I really value? And it's different at my age than it is, at season.
No, and I think this is a great place to end. We touched upon so much today, and I cannot thank you all again for your time enough, and for your thoughts on, on purpose, on mentorship, on support, on inclusion, and growth. I think we're all coming out of last year with all those things in mind and better for it. But thank you all for your time today. I really appreciate it. I cannot wait to see you all in person when we can have that opportunity to do so. I'm hoping it is very soon. But until then, thank you again, and I'll probably see you all on a Zoom chat quite soon. Thank you, guys.
Jeanine.